Two of the biggest elements of the Nike Move to Zero initiative are at play in this shoe. We're talking about the Flyknit upper, made of recycled materials, and we're talking about the CRATER foam midsole, also made from recycled materials. So you've got a couple of massive hits in there with this shoe, which you've seen either or on previous Air Force Ones, but we've never seen the two together. And that makes these both massive shoes. And it all started back with these guys right here. The Space Hippies was where we first saw that CRATER foam upcycling materials so they could reduce the amount of recycled materials going to waste and putting them into the shoes instead of putting them into the trash. And that's what the Move to Zero movement is basically all about over at Nike. And these shoes totally represent that. So I've already done some videos about CRATER, Nike Air Force One CRATERs, which was more about the midsole, less about the upper. But these guys, like I say, they crash together, those two huge parts of the Move to Zero movement. I'm going to get into that today. So what we're going to look at is a couple of things that are kind of interesting. One is the way the shoes are designed, because that Flyknit gives you a hint of Air Force One silhouette, but no more, which is kind of interesting about where they've placed that. A little bit too much and it would look like standard Air Force Ones, not enough, and it would kind of look like a Vapor Max or something like that if it was a solid Flyknit. So they've managed to find that sweet spot in between those two, and we'll look at that today. We'll also look at the materials on there and the places, two of them, where it's debossed instead of being embossed, which is kind of unique too. And then we'll also take it apart bit by bit for the unique branding elements on it. So those two things, we are going to, not two things, there's more than two things, but there's two shoes. So those many things are going to come in these two sneakers today as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One CRATER Wolf Grey and Black. This is the Tokyo About a 23 Sneaker channel. Tokyo About a 23 Sneaker channelです。毎日アップするので、毎日見てください。And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases and sneaker news and sneaker reviews. And on the spot today is a May 13th drop of two Air Force Ones, the Air Force One CRATER Flyknit Wolf Grey and Black. So now I'm not 100% sure about that black name. I wonder if they're going to come up with something else. The Wolf Grey gives that sort of, it's like a secret kind of hidden name, something special going on. Black is kind of, it's a little bit too simple. I wouldn't be surprised if that black changes out to something like charcoal or something simple like that. But that's the two that are coming up May the 13th. Today is April the 30th. This video will probably go up on maybe May the 3rd, so about a week ahead of schedule, 10 days ahead of the drop date. And that gives you guys a chance to look at this, find out about the shoes and decide whether or not you want to get them, dip your hands in your pockets, grab some pairs for yourselves or not, as the case may be. Sometimes people hit me up with those comments down below, which I truly appreciate, telling me that a video of mine helped them, swayed them, make a decision one way or the other to cop or not. And it's great to know that I'm making at least a little impact in the sneaker world out there. And speaking of impacts, huge impact at the channel. I think it was my favorite moment. In fact, I know it was my favorite moment at the channel. Like 2.5 years of YouTube content. My favorite thing was a chap out there sent me 3 pairs of shoes from his own collection, because we both share roughly the same shoe size. And what I did was I did a blind unboxing of them, and I was like feeling them, trying to work out what shoes they were, so you guys at home could see what the shoes were, but I'm fumbling around trying to guess what they were. I did know there were the Jordan 6 wheat in there, but then on top of that was actually Air Force One, speaking of these guys, but high, and Huarache as well. So, but the point is, the amazing thing is, the great thing is, he's at it again. He sent me another 3 pairs of shoes, and they've already arrived in Japan, but they haven't quite been delivered yet. So sometime over the next week, we're going to be doing it again. I'm pretty sure I'll be doing exactly the same thing, blind unboxing. I have no idea what's in this pack. Last time I knew about the Jordan 6s, but I didn't know about the Air Force Ones and the Huaraches. This time I know there's 3, but I don't know what's in there, so it'd be great to do that. It's always great to get stuff from viewers out there. I totally appreciate that side of things in my size, but also just being able to bring that content to you guys. So keep an eye out for that sometime over the next week, probably next weekend, not this coming weekend, but actually you'll be watching this video, so it will be this coming weekend, but yeah, you know what I mean. But anyway, enough about that. Let's park that and get into these Air Force Ones. I'm going to start where I said I'd start, which is with the upper on these guys and the silhouette, if you like. Now, we're talking 39 years of Air Force One. Next year will be its 40th anniversary year, and they're super lining up a bumper year at the Air Force One line. So you've had this silhouette for 39 years, pretty much unchanged. Every so often, they'll chuck a little difference in there. The craft line's a beautiful addition to make it a more kind of sleek, kind of cultured shoe. But then you've also got other stuff out there. There's that crazy pair, I can't remember what they're called, experimental. And then other things, little hits, but basically the silhouette hasn't changed. And that was the trick. That was what they had to go for on these guys, was how can they turn Flyknit into that classic Air Force One silhouette? And they kind of pulled it off. Now the wolf greys are the easiest one to see it because there's a clear distinction between the panels and the overlays on the shoe, even though they're all made of that Flyknit material. So the wolf greys look like this. Hopefully you can see the lines around it, the toe box up the quarter line, that kind of stuff, that tells you it's an Air Force One, even though it's all done in Flyknit. But then if we flip it over to those black guys, you can see it's a little bit harder to see with the deeper color on there, but it's still basically that total Flyknit. Now there are some hits on the shoe that aren't Flyknit, like the swooshes around the lacing system, the Dubrays, and the branding on the heels. Now those parts in these shoes, I'm going for a bit of an odd guess that it's a kind of flannel or felt that's been upcycled, you know, recycled from offcuts of other things on the shoes. Now there's two really special places where you can look and get a sense of that felt, and the big thing about this is that instead of embossing, and we're talking about either stitching or some kind of carving that shows this sort of branding coming out of the shoe, what they've done is actually debossed into the shoe the branding features on it, and that helps us to see what those materials are made of. So what I'll do is I'll first show you the Dubrays, which look like this, very different from your standard Air Force One Dubrays, which are often in some kind of metal and often embossed on there. But you can see in these guys it's sort of punctured into the Dubray on there, and you get that sense of that felt like kind of material on there. And then if we go all the way to the back of the shoe, to the heel, you can see it's exactly the same sort of thing going on that heel branding there. It's a felt kind of like material, a bit softer than leather, but again the branding is pushed into the shoe instead of jumping off the shoe. And that's two really major differences, two really major departures from the standard Air Force One branding. And between those two, you've got that lacing and that swoosh that are also done in that. Now I'll hopefully have the black guys up because I have a sort of like, I don't know, I can't call it pushback because I don't have a big enough channel to actually get any push to push back, but a bit of pushback against the site that said that these guys were all in black, and I was like, I don't think that swoosh and that lacing system's in black there. I think that's more in brown, but it might be the light of the picture, or it might actually be brown, or it might be black, who knows, but it does look brown to me. And so we've gone from that, you know, that heel branding and that Dubray with that kind of debossed branding on there, and then between the two of those you've got the lacing system and the swoosh. But another major feature on these guys that's very different from standard Air Force Ones is down on the midsole at the back. You've got that branding and the line down there. Now that's usually, if not always, in fact I've never seen it done in any other way than being embossed off the midsole, but you can see on these guys it's debossed into the midsole again, same as the Dubrays and same as the branding on the heel. And this is very unique take on these shoes to have it punctured in, pushing into the materials instead of jumping off of the materials. So for me, those are really three of the major parts of the shoe that's going on there. And since we're on that midsole, we might as well stay down there. There's a little bit of a difference between the two because the blacks have got a sort of slightly lighter midsole. The whites, the wolf greys, slightly white midsole, and the blacks have got that kind of hit of blue that you get with the CRATER kind of feel to it. But they still do have that upcycled offcuts of rubber and stuff in there. And if you flip them upside down and have a look at the outsole, you can see what a chunky outsole it is. Very much your standard sort of Air Force One looking outsole, but deeper. It seems to have deeper grooves, which I think is partly to do with the materials that it's made of. So and that's I think that's the take on everything on this shoe, giving you guys a very quick run around, except for the insole. Better jump in there because that's a flash of color, which actually reminds me to look at the tongues as well. A flash of color on the insoles with that Volt yellow in there, and the Move to Zero circle of swooshes that's giving that kind of recycle feel to it. And then you come forward from that, especially on the wolf greys, to see that red branding up on the tongue there, which stands in contrast to the rest of the shoes, except for on the wolf grey there's a little like sort of undertone of red in there, which with that grey kind of gives a slightly pink feel to the shoes. Now with that being said, it's pretty much time to wrap this video up and just chuck this one away for the night. It's kind of late here. I was hoping to have this wrapped up about an hour and a half ago, but things didn't quite go according to plan. But that's what happens when you have a little 3-year-old running around the place and you're doing your best to get every single day content out there to you guys in the YouTube world. And with that being said, it's time for me to just get off, go ahead and get this one up into the computer, do some editing, throw it up on YouTube, and let the world see what there is to see about the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One CRATER Flyknit I was like, what? The wolf grey and blacks. They're beautiful shoes and well worth taking a look at. So fingers crossed you guys appreciate that. But for now, it's time for me just to chip off. Thank you for looking into the content, checking out the channel. And I'll say the thing that I say at the end of every single video is that I do this every single day. And that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.